Hare Krishna. Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Ramo Hare 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 Krishna. Would like to welcome all of you all to the Applied Bhagavatam series. We are right now in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the first to the third chapter, and we're discussing the life of Vidura and how he became a Mahatma. These three chapters of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam are something that all of us need to meditate on in our own journeys, because what Vidura did is exactly what we need to do in our journeys to progress in our spiritual lives and also to eventually, at some point in some lifetime, become a great Mahatma. Today, we're going to continue from the section that we left last time. For all those of you who are new to the Applied Bhagavatam series, you must understand that every single session that I am doing is based on Bhagavatam in a sequence, and I am providing elaborate notes like this for every single session of the Srimad Bhagavatam. These notes are available in the Telegram group, and anybody who is a part of the Telegram group can get free access to all these notes so that you can actually understand the Srimad Bhagavatam in a much better way, and at the same time you will have notes for every single chapter and every single section of Srimad Bhagavatam for the rest of your lives. Today, I'm going to be continuing from where we left off. The first session, we spoke about 7 things that Vidura did till this point in time. And then today we're going to speak about the remaining things that Vidura did sequentially that eventually led him to become a Mahatma. We spoke about how Vidura had the ability to discriminate the right from the wrong. We also spoke about how Vidura had the courage to speak the truth consciously and courageously. We also saw how Vidura was always respectful to the Lord and the devotees, even when he was in the midst of atheists. We also saw how Vidura gave the right advice when asked. And then we saw how Vidura, he understood and identified the root of all problems, which was envy towards the Lord. And then we saw how Vidura was very apt, very smart in looking at setbacks philosophically. And then finally, we saw how Vidura was unaffected by insults. Today we're going to go one step further and see the next thing that Vidura did and the next thing that we can understand from the life of Vidura through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and through the first 3 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a very beautiful verse in the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam's third canto. It is called the 17th verse, and the verse, it reads as follows: Sa nirgata kaurava punya labdo gajavaya tirtha padha padhani anvakramat punya chikir sayorvyam adhishtito yani sahasramurti. This verse means, by his piety, Vidura achieved the advantages of the pious Kauravas. After leaving Hastinapur, he took shelter of many places of pilgrimage, which are the Lord's lotus feet. With a desire to gain a high order of pious life, he traveled to holy places where thousands of transcendental forms of the Lord are situated. Just to give the context of the situation till this point in time, Vidura was the part of Hastinapur. He was one of the very exalted ministers in Hastinapur. But since he was the son of a maid servant, he did not get the due respect that he deserved, especially from Duryodhan, who was the prince of Hastinapur. Dhritarashtra was more or less a puppet in the hands of Duryodhan, and at some point, when Vidura advised to Duryodhan and the others that they should at least hand over 5 villages to the Pandavas, as proposed by Krishna, Duryodhan did not want to listen. In fact, Duryodhan hated the idea of even giving a very tiny fraction of the land to the Pandavas. And more than anything else, he hated Krishna. And that's when Vidura understood this is a hopeless situation. He spoke the truth, which was very bitter for Duryodhan and his people. He told them that all of you are going to die if you do not listen and surrender the 5 villages to the Pandavas. He told them how Krishna is the supreme Lord and they cannot fool around with him. And he told them that you are all headed for destruction. Duryodhan felt that this was an insult by his uncle and spoke such filthy words about his uncle. He told Vidura that you are the son of a kept mistress. He in fact called Vidura a dog. And unfortunately, Duryodhan never understood what really is going on in the mind of his uncle Vidura and how Vidura was actually a well-wisher of the Kauravas. Duryodhan kept insulting him, and at some point Vidura realized there's no point in talking to these people. Might as well I go on my own journey and let them to fate. Vidura walked away from Hastinapur, leaving back his wealth, leaving back his family, leaving back his house, leaving back everything that was his own, including his brother and his nephews. And he turned out to make this situation, which was unfortunate, into an opportunity for his own spiritual advancement. And that is where we are at this point, where Vidura is going to holy places of pilgrimage, trying to deepen his own spiritual journey. One time, a man entered a small town and asked a little boy in that town, he said, "Has any great man or woman been born in this village?" The boy looked at this man with great surprise. He said, "Oh no, in this village only little children are born." Behind the answer of this little boy is actually a very big philosophical point. Actually, all of us are born little children. But what we do with our life determines whether we become a great Mahatma or not. Most people, they do not make great choices in their life. And because they do not make great choices in their life, they end up living a life of ordinariness. But great Mahatmas like Vidura, they know when to make the right choices. And because they make the right choices at the right time, they eventually become a Mahatma. This whole story is about, on one level, it is about Vidura's journey towards becoming a Mahatma, towards becoming such an exalted Mahajan that he was. but it is also an internal journey that we all have to undergo of our own transformation. The choices that Vidura is making at different points in his own life are the very choices that we have to make in our own life, in the journey of our life. And the choices that Vidura makes are choices that inspire us to make for considering the situation of our life. When Dasharath Maharaj decided to coronate Ram as the king of Ayodhya, the Vashishta had fixed a date for the coronation. Sumantra had actually done so many of the arrangements that are needed for the coronation. And all the common man of Ayodhya, they were excited for the coronation ceremony. But one day before the coronation, actually the previous night of the coronation, Ram and Sita had prayed to Lord Ranganath, their family deity, and sought blessings. And just one day before the coronation, one night before rather, everything changed. Manthara poisoned Kaikeyi's mind, and Kaikeyi went and demanded for Ram to be sent to forest for 14 years and Bharat become the king. So many years later, 14 years later, when Ram came back, eventually Ram became the king. But the people of Ayodhya, they had a doubt. After the coronation ceremony, they went to Vashishta, their guru, and asked their doubt. They asked Vashishta, why did the consecration of Lord Ram as a king of Ayodhya stop 14 years back? Why was the coronation organized by Dasharath Maharaj had to abruptly be stopped? Can you please tell us? They asked him. Vashishta, he tried to give different answers. First he said, Ram is coronated as a king of Ayodhya today, but today we call the coronation as Sita Ram Pattabhishekam. We called it as the coronation of Sita and Ram. But the last time when the coronation was declared, we had called it as Ram Pattabhishekam. Therefore the coronation stopped. Wherever Sita is not there, there will be obstacles. Where Sita is there along with Lord Ram, there is no obstacles. We made a mistake at that time, now we have rectified it, and therefore the coronation happened. They understood that answer, but some of the scholars, they had some doubts in their minds. They asked Vashishta, they said, "O great sage, we still have one more doubt that we want you to clear." They said that there is no emperor as powerful as Dasharath. There is no sage as wise as you. There is no minister as brilliant as Sumantra who is making arrangements. And there is no lack of support from the people of Ayodhya. How come, and of course, Sita and Ram pray to Lord Ranganath, and there is no God greater than Ranganath. How come after you, after Sumantra, after Dasharath Maharaj, and after Ranganath have approved it, how come by the conspiracy of one woman who was hunchbacked, such a big celebration, such a big coronation was stopped? This didn't make sense to us. Vashishta then realized that he has to give a much deeper answer. Vashishta then told them a deeper reason behind why the coronation was stopped. He said that what you and I think is not important, but what Ram thinks is important for when the coronation should happen. Dasharath Maharaj, Sumantra, myself, the citizens of Ayodhya, we all thought that the coronation should happen at that point in time. Manthara and Kaikeyi thought the coronation should not happen at that point in time. But Ram thought the coronation should happen 14 years later. And because he thought it should happen 14 years later, therefore coronation happened now. The citizen said, why did he think the coronation should happen 14 years later? And then Vashishta gave a fantastic answer. He said, Lord Ram does not want just himself to grow. He thinks that anyone who is connected to him should grow first, and then I should grow. So therefore, Ram, whoever came in touch with him, whoever took shelter of him, he first made them kings. He first made them grow tremendously in their lives, and then he accepted the role of a king. So, if you actually see, the first coronation happened to the Paduka of Lord Ram, who had taken shelter of his feet. And then the Paduka was handed over to Bharat, and Bharat also was coronated as a king on behalf of the Paduka of Lord Ram. And then Guha, who became a great friend of his, grew so much in his power and magnanimity as a leader because of his connection with Lord Ram. And then Guha, so after Guha, Ram met Sugriv, and Sugriv grew so wonderfully in his connection with Lord Ram, and he became the king of Kishkinda. And then eventually Vibhishan comes, and Lord Ram makes him the king of Lanka. So practically every single person who came in touch with Lord Ram, Ram gave them a crown, grew them. And then after he saw that everyone around him, whoever has taken shelter of him, have grown sufficiently, then he accepted the Patabhishekam, the coronation. Which means that when you are struggling in so many ways, like those who approach Ram, if you look at Ramayana, every single who approached Ram, at that point in their life they were struggling. But when they come in and they were thinking that they had lost everything. But when they came in contact with Lord Ram, all of them gained much more than they can even imagine. Because Ram is interested in your growth. One of the names of the Lord, he is known as Vardhamana. Vardhamana means he is enthusiastic about growing others. Every single person who takes shelter of him, they will grow. So when you are going through a down phase in your life, just like Vidura was going at this point in time through a very bad down phase of life, at that point in time he decided to use reversal as an opportunity to advance spiritually. And therefore he went out and took shelter of holy places. And because he took shelter of holy places, he began to grow internally. When we go to a holy place, what should one do? Vidura, through his journey, he explains to us what one should do when we go to holy places. It is explained in the Bhagavatam, the third canto, that he began to travel alone, thinking only of Krishna. Through various holy places like Ayodhya, Dwarka and Mathura, he travelled where the grove, hill, orchard, river and lake are all pure and sinless, and where the forms of the unlimited decorate the temples. Thus, he performed the pilgrim's progress. On our life journey, one must think of Krishna and one must prepare oneself to meet Krishna. All of us, we're all travelers in the journey of life. And while we're traveling in the journey of life, it is important to remember that we should constantly think of Krishna and go ahead. And while we're thinking of Krishna, we must prepare oneself to meet Krishna. One time, a very interesting conversation happened in Dwarka. Lord Krishna had just blessed Sudama, his friend. And Sudama, had gone back and he had become so rich. At that point in time, Yamaraj came running to Dwarka to meet Lord Krishna. And Yamaraj was very, very disturbed. And when Yamaraj came running, he had a huge diary with him. And Yamaraj came running to Krishna and he told him, Krishna, my dear Lord, please forgive my offenses. But the truth is that I am not needed in Yamapuri anymore. I want to resign. I have come to give you the record of all the deeds of the creatures on earth. And he kept the account book in front of Lord Krishna. Krishna smiled and he asked him, what is it that makes you so worried? Please tell me. Yamaraj started saying, my dear Lord, from the time you have come into this material world, sinners don't come to Yamapuri. There is nobody coming to hell because you forgive all of them and they all go to your abode, Golok Vrindavan. And just now what you did for Sudama, what you have done is unbelievable. Where should we go now? You've donated all the 3 worlds to Sudama. Yamaraj started saying that actually the fate of Sudama is that only poverty was written throughout his life. But by giving him the property of all the 3 worlds, you have changed the very constitution made by law. Now, the concept of karma is almost ended. Yamaraj was like seriously talking to Krishna. And Krishna simply smiled and asked him, how do you know that in Sudama's fate only poverty was written? Yamaraj opened his books of accounts and he said, here, see, only poverty is written in his charts. And suddenly, Yamaraj was astonished when he saw Sudama's fate in his account book. It had changed completely. Because before, when he had seen Sudama's accounts, the word that was written over there to describe the poverty of Sudama was that it was written Shaya Shri. Shaya means destruction or reduction. So it essentially means destruction of property. But Lord Krishna himself reversed the same letters, and where Kshaya was written, the word was replaced by Yasha. So Shaya Shri means destruction of property, and Yasha Shri means he is going to get the property of Kubera. Yamaraj said, the Lord smiled at Yamaraj and told him, perhaps your information is not complete. Do you know the Sudama surrendered everything to me? I have rewarded Sudama because he gave everything to me. Yamaraj said, what property are you talking about? Sudama didn't own anything. What did he give you? So much. Krishna told him, the only thing Sudama possessed was those 4 fistfuls of chipped rice. And he gave me that. Because the only thing that he actually possessed was those 4 fistfuls of puffed rice. And Sudama handed over all of that to me. Technically, Sudama has handed over all his property to me. And because Sudama has given everything to me, and feeding me is like as good as feeding the whole world. And therefore, because Sudama has practically surrendered everything to me, I have become his servant. I have become obliged to him so much that all the wealth of this world is still not enough to reciprocate to the fact that he has given everything to me. If you actually see, I have declared that whenever a devotee gives me, I'll reciprocate accordingly. Whatever he gives me, I'll reciprocate accordingly. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam tachaiva bhajamiham. Sudama has given me everything. So technically, I'm supposed to give everything that I possess to him. And therefore, all the 3 worlds belong to him. Because he has given me everything, I have to give him everything. And that is when Yamaraj understood, here is a totally different equation going on. And the laws of karma cannot calculate this kind of equation. Whatever we have, we must give it to Krishna. Vidura, he offered everything he had to Krishna and walked to places of pilgrimage, knowing very well that Krishna will take care of him. India is an amazing land. Every single day, as you travel around the length and breadth of India, especially to holy places, you will realize that there are such mystical things happening in all these holy places that are practically impossible to explain logically. There is one parikrama in India which is considered to be the toughest parikrama which is done by great pilgrims. This is called the Narmada Parikrama. So Narmada Parikrama is a pilgrimage that many great personalities take, but it's not an easy pilgrimage. It's not a 1 day or 2 day pilgrimage. It's not a few hours pilgrimage. It's 6 months long pilgrimage. And for Narmada Parikrama, there are some rules that many of the great personalities who do these parikrama undergo. And one of the rules is that they don't carry anything. Whatever they are wearing, that's all they carry. They don't carry any money, they don't carry any phones, they don't carry any luggage, They don't carry any food, nothing. They just go barehanded with absolutely nothing except dependence on Krishna. No rugs, no chadars, nothing at all. No wind cheaters, nothing. And it is not an easy parikrama. It's a very, very tough parikrama. But yet, people go with complete faith in the presence of Narmada Devi and in the presence of the Supreme Lord. And the most amazing thing that everyone who has done this parikrama, there are many books written by great personalities who have done this Narmada parikrama single-handedly and have completed it successfully in 6 months, and they recount. So it's a parikrama of the entire Narmada river. So Narmada stretches for a long duration, and people go on this parikrama alone, without any company, without any kind of maintenance, without any kind of guarantees, no hotel stays, no contacts in between, nothing. And the most amazing thing is that not one of them suffer from hunger. Not one of them feel that they have not got maintained. It's said Narmada Devi herself maintains everyone who does this parikrama. And many people who have gone on this parikrama have even recounted mystical experiences of how a lady comes and gives them food, and they have never seen that lady before. And it is Narmada Devi herself. And so many such experiences. Vidura was on a pilgrimage, and there is a process and there is a way in which these pilgrimages are done. These pilgrimages are not done keeping comfort in mind. They are done keeping austerity in mind. They are done keeping the pleasure of the Lord in mind. And when someone is completely absorbed in this mood, the parikrama and the procession and the progress that they make is at a different level only. Vidura traveled to all the holy places with the intention of purification. So, first, he started using reversals as an opportunity to advance spiritually, and to make reversals as an opportunity, he set out on a pilgrimage to all the holy places. And as he was traveling to all these holy places, he began to prepare himself internally for meeting Krishna. When you prepare yourself mentally for meeting Krishna, that is when you are having a conversation with Krishna on an inner level. And the experience of reciprocation is the most powerful one. And then Vidura began to travel to all the holy places with an intent of purification. The Bhagavatam says, while so traversing the earth, he simply performed duties to please the Supreme Lord, Hari. His occupation was pure and independent. He was constantly sanctified by taking his bath in holy places, although he was in the dress of a mendicant and had no hair dressing nor a bed on which to lie. Thus, he was always unseen by his various relatives. This is a very beautiful description of what one should do in a pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is a time for austerity. It's a time for absorption. It's a time where one best does not engage in mundane activities. So when you go on a pilgrimage, it's best that you do not be so much bothered about your business, so much bothered about your work, so much bothered about what's happening, at home, and what's happening in the country, what's happening in the world, what's happening in the stock market, what's happening in society. This is not the concern that one should have while on a pilgrimage. Vidura was on a serious pilgrimage, and because he was on a serious pilgrimage, he was not bothered about the rest of the world. He was only focusing on his purification. And keeping that in mind, he dressed very simply. Pilgrimage is not a place where you go dressed gorgeously. It's not a place where you go dressed to show. It's not a place where you carry more than what you need. It's a place for simplicity. To the extent we live simply, with least demands and with least expectations in a pilgrimage, the more the sights of pilgrimage will purify us. The more we expect, the more we demand for our bodies, the lesser the purification happens in pilgrimages. Vidura here was very intensely focused on his deeper purification and the experiences that he had in the pilgrimage rather than the comforts that he wanted to. Vidura was the minister of Hastinapur. Can you imagine if he had simply announced to all the places where he went that I am the minister of Hastinapur? Imagine how many facilities he would have got. Imagine what kind of comforts he would have got. Imagine what kind of food he would have got. Because Hastinapur was not an ordinary place at that point in time. Hastinapur was the kingdom, the capital of the world. And Vidura being the minister, the prime minister of Hastinapur, is not an ordinary place, not an ordinary occupation, not an ordinary position. Vidura did not bother about those connections. He tried to keep himself discreet. This is the right mood to be in a pilgrimage. Discreet. Discreet means what? We don't show our identities to God. We don't show our external identities to the sadhus. For them, it doesn't mean anything. You may be a prime minister of a country, but for a sadhu, it doesn't mean anything. You may be the most powerful person in a city, but for the deity, for the Supreme Lord, it doesn't mean anything. And therefore, to the extent we go with that mood, then I am nothing. And I am come here with a mood, with the intent for purification. To that extent, purification will happen. A very beautiful exchange happens between one devotee and his disciple. There was a devotee who had gone for darshan of the Supreme Lord. And when he went in front of the deities of the Supreme Lord, this devotee, he was going through ecstatic symptoms. Something amazing was happening. He was standing in front of the Lord with his hands folded, having darshan of the beautiful deities of the Lord. And from his eyes, tears started dripping. And his entire body was shivering. There was trembling happening. So his disciple was very amazed looking at what is known as the Ashtavikar, Ashtasatvika Vikar. So Ashtasatvika Vikar are ecstatic symptoms that a devotee feels when he very strongly connects with the Supreme Lord. And these ecstatic symptoms are not easy. They are not normal symptoms. They are very rare symptoms that only very evolved and exalted people experience in their journeys. When this disciple saw his guru experiencing these ecstatic symptoms on his body, he didn't say anything at that point in time. Much later, when they were alone and he got an audience with his teacher, and he thought it might be an appropriate time to ask. He asked him, my dear teacher, I saw that you had these ecstatic symptoms. How does that happen? How can one experience such intense ecstasy in having darshan of the Lord? Can you please enlighten me? And this guru gave a very beautiful answer. He asked his disciple, do you chant the Gayatri mantra properly? This disciple, he didn't expect such a question. He said, how is that connected with my question? And this guru said, within that Gayatri mantra is a very powerful thought. When you chant the Gayatri mantra is something that is not to be uttered orally. So therefore, I'm not going to chant the entire Gayatri mantra, but if I'm just going to use some words of the Gayatri mantra, which obviously all of you will know. Many people blow the Gayatri mantra on loudspeakers, etc. But ideally, the Gayatri mantra is to be chanted within the heart, and it has to be chanted with meditation. And this devotee sat with this disciple and explained to him what is the right way of chanting the Gayatri mantra. He explained to him that every word of the Gayatri mantra, one must meditate on the meaning of this Gayatri mantra. And Tatsavitur Vareniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. So he said that when you chant the Gayatri mantra, this word Savita is a very important word. So Tatsavitur, Savitur Vareniyam. So what is the meaning of the word Savitur? So it essentially means One of the names of the sun is Savita. Savita Varenium. It refers to the Supreme Lord who's, who is eternally present within the sun. And Savitu Devasya. The Supreme Lord is present within the sun. And Bharga, it is referring to the effulgence coming out from the body of the Lord, the light emanating from the body of the Lord. And that light that is emanating from the body of the Lord, Tat, is able to arouse in us devotion towards Him. That light which is emanating from the body of the Lord has the ability to arouse in us devotion towards Him. Varenium, His divine aura is loved by everybody. Dhimati, and the idea is that keep such a light in your heart. Prachodayat means that light directs our intelligence in the right direction towards the Lord. This is the meaning of the Gayatri Mantra. What essentially it means is that let us cherish in our hearts the light emanating from the body of the Supreme Lord, which is capable of stirring love in our hearts, and the Supreme Lord is loved by all. If we meditate on the light emanating from the Supreme Lord, that light directs our intelligence towards the Supreme Lord in the right way. And this devotee told his disciple, recite this Gayatri Mantra 3 times a day and meditate on the divine beauty of the Supreme Lord and the light emanating from His body. You will also experience the same ecstatic symptoms very soon. And from that day, this devotee, he realized, I'm just chanting the Gayatri Mantra so mechanically. But if I simply understand the meaning of the Gayatri Mantra and I close my eyes and meditate on these aspects of the Gayatri Mantra, and I actually close my eyes and meditate on the light emanating from the Supreme Lord's body, and that meditation is such a powerful meditation. I don't know how many of you all have experienced this. When you go to any temple, especially the ancient old temples, and they have, it's very dark. They don't have any tube lights inside the altar. And when they do Aarti, that is the only light in which you can actually see the Lord. When the Aarti is being performed and the light is circumambulating the Lord, as the light is circumambulating the light reflects on the Lord's body, and you can actually experience the divine aura emanating from the Lord's body. And that experience of the divine aura emanating from the Lord's body, that is the most powerful meditation one can have. So when you go to these holy places, one must go in the right consciousness and the right meditation while having darshan, and spending time in the holy places performing these meditations. That is when these holy places become alive. That is when the transformation becomes most powerful. Vidura, at this point in time, he was traveling to all the holy places with the intent of purification. He had the right intention and he wanted to be purified. And because he understood that he has to meditate in the right way, he was always conscious of what was going on in his mind while he was standing in front of these deities and while he was performing these meditations. So, in this way, Vidura kept traveling from one holy place to another, strengthening his meditation and strengthening his absorption in the different various forms of the Lord that he saw in hundreds of temples in all these holy places. And while he was in all these holy places, visiting all these great sites of pilgrimage, he was meeting holy people. This is the next step in our progress towards spirituality, towards becoming a great soul, association with other great souls. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, thus when he was in the land of Bharatavarsha, traveling to all the places of pilgrimage, he visited Prabhashetra. At that time, Maharaj Yudhishthir was the emperor and held the world under one military strength and one flag. At the place of pilgrimage at Prabhasha, he came to know all his relatives had died due to the violent passion, just as the entire forest burns due to fire produced by the friction of bamboos. After this, he proceeded to the west, where the river Saraswati flows. On the banks of the river Saraswati, Vidura, he went to 11 sites of pilgrimage. Trita, Ushna, Manu, Prutu, Agni, Asita, Vayu, Sudhashu, Go, Guha, and Shraddha Deva. He went to these 11 sites of pilgrimage and he performed rituals in all these 11 sites of pilgrimage. And then he passed through various wealthy provinces like Surat, Sauvira, Matsya, and through Western India, known as Kurujangala. At last he reached the bank of the Yamuna, where he happened to meet Uddhava, the great devotee of Lord Krishna. Interestingly, in this list is mentioned the name Surat, and it is also mentioned wealthy province like Surat, which means even at that point in time Surat was wealthy, so it is today. Some places are, that's the karma of the place itself. It's supposed to be, very wealthy provinces. And Vidura, passing through all these holy places, finally reached the point where he met Uddhava, who was his great devotee. In the association of Uddhava, there are some amazing things that happened. Uddhava was a very, very exalted soul, and Vidura and Uddhava's meeting is historical. It is explained that the discussions that happened between Uddhava and Vidura are very special discussions. We will actually spend a lot of time going through the discussions that happened going ahead. But at this point in time, I'll just like to pause and talk about how important it is when you go to these holy places, how important it is to meet holy people. It is not just about going to these places, it's about what you do and whom you meet in these places that makes these pilgrimages to be really powerful and really potent. We find a very beautiful story that happened in 1800s. I'm going to tell you a very ancient story, but it's actually very relevant even today. And the reason it is relevant even today is simply because this story talks about a principle that we all must apply in our personal lives, in our personal journeys. There was a great sage whose name was Raghavacharya, who appeared in Pusha Nakshatra in a small village of Varu. And at a very young age, Raghavacharya learned the Vedas and the Divya Prabandhams from his father. And he became a great scholar, and he began to visit so many holy places in his life. And eventually, he took sannyas with the permission, and eventually he became one of the great exalted acharyas. So he was born in 1801, and many years later, he was in 1831. He began to live as a mendicant in a very simple setup in a small village, and every day the only thing he would eat was 8 handfuls of uh, of um, you know rice that is mashed practically. So he ate so little that he came to be known as Vattal Swami. So Vattal Swami means somebody who survived with bare minimum basically. And over his entire life, he lived a very, very simple life, and he practiced very intense austerities, and he was not really bothered about his body, but he was more focused on his spiritual journey. At one point, he became a very senior acharya, and he had so many disciples under him. But still, he continued his austere life. And by this time, he became 80 years of age. And one particular day, he was performing the Ekadasi Vrat. And in those days, at least this particular, sannyasi, the way he performed his Ekadasi Vrat was by eating nothing. Normally also he didn't eat anything, but on Ekadasi he didn't even drink water. That was the kind of austerity that he performed on Ekadasi Vrata. Um, on one particular day, when he was very, very old, he was not even drinking a drop of water, and his disciples were feeling very sad and very bad, especially because this was the Agni Nakshatra. That means it was a summer season, extreme heat, and because of the extreme heat and due to lack of drinking water also, his body was becoming emaciated and he was literally on the verge of collapsing. And at that point in time, all his disciples, they began to quote from various scriptures about how one can drink water and liquids during Ekadasi if one is not well and if one is very old. They told him that you have all your life fasted on Ekadasi and not broken a single Ekadasi. Today, your body is not able to handle it. You are very sick. So it's just completely fine. Please just drink a little curd. And disciples, because he was becoming weaker and weaker, the disciples brought a pot of curd for him. And they started, trying to inspire him to drink that pot of, that little curd that they bought. So finally, seeing the pressure that his disciples were putting on him, he agreed to drink. And finally, they got a glass of curd and offered it to him. The moment this great Acharya, he saw this glass of curd, he saw the curd, he instantly started remembering many things that were connected to curd. He started thinking, where has curd come from? He said, the curd has come from milk. And where has milk come from? He started thinking, milk has come from the milk ocean. And from the milk ocean, so many other things came out, including Lakshmi Devi herself. And he started thinking, if Lakshmi Devi has come out from the milk ocean, and this Lakshmi Devi is the personality who has come out from this milk ocean, naturally, the Supreme Lord is also going to be present in this milk ocean. And he started connecting everything, and he started thinking that if I simply take shelter of that milk ocean, and if I simply take shelter of Lakshmi Devi who has come out from that milk ocean, I don't ever have to suffer from any kind of pain and tribulations. This curd is simply something that is a vikar of milk, and therefore he said, I do not want to drink this curd also, because I know that the Supreme Lord will protect me. And just see, by looking at curd, I remember the milk ocean, and by thinking of the milk ocean, I remember the goddess of fortune, and by thinking of the goddess of fortune, I remember the Supreme Lord. Therefore, I am protected. I don't need to drink this curd, I'll be fine. And he didn't drink the curd that day, and he survived. And the next day, he broke the Ekadasi Vrata. The great acharyas and the seniors that we all have spiritually, they have set a path. Of course, this story is a very extreme story, but through this story, I want to bring a very important point here. The point that I want to bring out is that when you go to these holy places and when you meet these holy people, what is it that we are supposed to learn from them? Why do we really need to meet these great, holy people? What is it that we are going to learn from these people? A very important thing. They follow the path prescribed so seriously. We tend to compromise on the path. Sometimes we give excuses to ourselves. I need to sleep a little more. We give excuses to ourselves. My body can't handle so much of fasting. We give excuses to ourselves. I am not well. We give excuses to ourselves. I am so busy. I have 100 responsibilities. I have so many things to do. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can give up this. I don't think I can give up that. So we give so many excuses to ourselves. When we go to these holy places, we actually are shaken up from uh, our mentality that is very, I would say, kind to ourselves. We are very very kind to ourselves, and it's nice to be kind to ourselves, but it's more important to be determined and disciplined. In the name of kindness, we can't lose discipline and determination. And in the name of determination, we can't be neglecting self care. But the way our acharyas have created a system, Ekadasi comes once in 15 days. It's not that we fast every second day. We fast on Ekadasis, which is once in 15 days. Once in 15 days, anyone can afford to fast. So if you can't fast from completely from water and everything else, at least drink some juices, drink milk, drink liquids. If you can't do that, at least eat some fruits. If you can't just eat fruits and liquids, you can maybe take some ekadasi food, which is like say for example buckwheat, or for example varai, or for example sabudana, or whatever suits you. These are exceptions. So we should try our best to do as best as we can. So we should not go by the extreme situation. Most of us, nowadays, Ekadasi has become like a time of feast. A lot of times, instead of fasting, we end up eating more on Ekadasi day. The idea of austerities and the idea of the path of spirituality is a set idea that great teachers have taught us. Now, when we go to these holy places, we come across people who are known as suras. Who are suras? We hear this word sura and asura, right? We tend to think sura and asura means people who are gods and demons from the heavenly planets or from other planets. No, that's not what suras mean. The word suras here refers to heroes. Here refer to great sages, refers to great sadhus. Who are our heroes? Who have set a path, and when we follow their path without compromising, without deviating, without questioning, we get the desired results. So we go to holy places, we go there with the intent for purification, we go there absorbed in the right mood and the right consciousness, and there we study the lives of great suras. And because the Supreme Lord is the head of all these suras, he is known as Sureshwara. And because these suras are trying to please Sureshwara and they're trying to live such exemplary lives, when we look at them, we feel inspired. We feel that this is the way that we must live our lives. And that is the mood in which Vidura was meeting great people, holy people in the holy places that he was visiting. And that was the mood in which he was meeting Uddhava, who was one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. And while meeting holy people in holy places and spending time with great souls, what was he doing? He was engaging in deep conversations. This is the essence of this entire discussion. Then, due to his great love and feeling, Vidura embraced Uddhava, who was a constant companion of Lord Krishna and formerly a great student of Brahaspati's. Vidura then asked him for news of the family of Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead who incarnated themselves at the request of Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower of the Lord, from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Surasena. O my friend, please therefore chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees, the Yadus. it is explained that Uddhava and Vidura engaged in deep conversations about Lord Krishna. So, when you come to these holy places, it is important that you get into deep discussions about Krishna. And what is the, see, there are two types of discussions that one can have in this world. There are superficial discussions and deep discussions. Superficial discussions are discussions that we can have with anybody in life. But when we meet great personalities like Uddhava, the discussion is not supposed to be superficial, it is supposed to be deep. I'm going to give you one example of a deep discussion just to help us understand what deep discussions mean. One time, Ramanuja, he was hearing Ramayana from his teacher, and he heard the entire Ramayana from his teacher several times. And after hearing Ramayana from his teacher so many times, then he asked him a question. And this question was very interesting. Ramanacharya asked him, he said, "My dear Lord, in my understanding of the Ramayana, I've seen that whoever surrenders to Lord Ram, their surrender was successful. Ram accepted their surrender and blessed them with his association, blessed them with great blessings. But why was Bharat's surrender not successful? Bharat went to the forest with all of Ayodhya and he simply wanted to crown Ram as the king of Ayodhya and bring him back. And that's the only request Bharat made to Lord Ram. Why did Ram not accept the request of Bharat? Instead of that, he gave his Paduka to Bharat and Ram went ahead to the forest. And Bharat had to return back to Nandigram with the Paduka of Lord Ram. And he had to stay without Ram for 14 years. It seems that Ram was harsh on Bharat. He did not fulfill Bharat's desire. He did not accept Bharat's surrender. At that time, the Acharya, who was the guru of Ramanacharya, one of the various gurus of Ramanacharya, he told him something very beautiful. He told him, actually, you must understand one thing first, that Lord Ram, he could not immediately accept Bharat's request because before Bharat went to Lord Ram, all the gods had gone to Ram many years back and had requested him to come on earth and destroy Ravan and his people. If Ram had returned to Ayodhya as per Bharat's request, Ravan would never have taken Sita away and eventually Ravan's death would never have happened. And eventually the surrender of the gods, their request, that would have never been fulfilled. And therefore, he fulfilled the request of the gods first because that request was made first. And then he fulfilled the request of Bharat. So then Ramanacharya, he asked him, does it mean that the surrender of Bharat was fruitless at that point in time? The Acharya explained, actually, the surrender of Bharat was more fruitful than the surrender of the gods, more fruitful than the surrender of Vibhishan, more fruitful than the surrender of Sugriva also. Ramanacharya was surprised. He said, how? How is Bharat's surrender more fruitful than all others? And this Acharya explained that Bharat was given the Paduka by Lord Ram. And he explained that the Paduka of Lord Ram is greater than Lord Ram. And therefore, Bharat received a higher reward than Ram himself, which is the Paduka of Lord Ram. And not only that, Ram did not reject Bharat's request either. He went for 14 years to the forest and after he also performed after completing the exile for 14 years, he came and fulfilled the wish of Bharat also. This is the second benefit that he gave Bharat. So for the first benefit he gave Bharat was he gave the Paduka. The Paduka itself is greater than Ram. The second benefit that he gave Bharat was that he himself returned back in 14 years. But not only that, Ram gave a third benefit to Bharat. The third benefit that Ram gave Bharat was that um, when Bharat surrendered, to Lord Ram, Bharat's surrender was on behalf of all of Ayodhya. So, by considering the surrender done by Bharat on behalf of all of Ayodhya, Ram, when he completed his incarnation and went back to the spiritual world, went back to Vaikuntha, he took all the citizens of Ayodhya back with him to the spiritual world. So that means the people of Ayodhya, they did not surrender, but Bharat surrendered on behalf of the people of Ayodhya. But because Bharat surrendered on behalf of the people of Ayodhya, every single person in Ayodhya went back to the spiritual world along with Lord Ram. And this was a third benefit of the surrender of Bharat to Lord Ram. And so Bharat only made one request. But the one request and the one surrender that Bharat did, he got benefit 3 times. So he got threefold rewarded, and this was a much more supreme level of reciprocation that Ram did for Bharat. And the Acharya explained to Ramanujacharya that therefore Lord Ram is known as Kama Pradha. Kama means desires, and Pradha means the one who fulfills your desires. The Lord is known as Kama Pradha because he blesses you more than what you desire. He gives you more than what you expect from him. This is called depth. See, when we have discussions with devotees, the discussions have to be deep discussions. For us to engage in deep conversations in holy places, we must approach people who are deep. Vidura just did not have a random conversation with anyone. He chose Uddhava, who was the personal associate of the Lord. He chose Uddhava, who was a disciple of Brihaspati. He chose Uddhava, who was such an exalted personality because of his association with Krishna and because of his constant connection with Krishna. We must go to holy places in the association of such deep people. And when we go to these holy places, we must have conversations with such deep people. And how does one have conversations? What kind of conversations one must have is what Uddhava is and Vidura are at this point of time demonstrating to us. Uddhava and Vidura going forward are going to have beautiful and deep conversations. And what is the conversation that Uddhava and Vidura are going to have? We will take it up next time, because the conversation itself is so powerful and so deep that I don't want to just do a superficial discussion of that conversation. So I thought that this will be more apt that conversation requires a more deeper presentation and a deeper thought behind it. So the next time when we meet, we are going to go into the discussion between Uddhava and Vidura that leads to another discussion between Vidura and Maitreya. So these conversations are, inspiring other conversations also. So let us all absorb ourselves in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and go through the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam in a way that can actually help us not only understand the Bhagavatam, but also live the Bhagavatam. These scriptures are not just books of knowledge, but these are books that can actually transform our lives, transform the way we live our lives. I in all these days that I've started these applied Bhagavatam classes, I was in the mood that I need to complete the applied Bhagavatam in 2-3 years. Complete the entire 18 cantos of Bhagavatam in 2-3 years. But then I've been thinking over the last few days, and I realized that I don't need to be in a hurry to complete the Bhagavatam in 2 or 3 years, because the Bhagavatam is something that we need to relish. And while I'm teaching you all the Bhagavatam, I am relishing it. I have read the Bhagavatam several times, but now when I'm reading it with the perspective that I need to teach it systematically, I'm going much deeper into the Bhagavatam, and I'm loving this experience. And I was thinking that I want to do this one effort very deeply. I don't know whether I will ever in my life again teach the entire Bhagavatam so systematically. So because I'm anyway going to be doing such a big Herculean effort, I really want to go deep into the Bhagavatam, and I want to help all of you all enjoy the Bhagavatam in that depth. And hopefully, by that churning, we will all understand the Bhagavatam a little more, come closer to Krishna a little more, and understand the power that we are holding through the message of the Bhagavatam in our lives. And hopefully, we will become a little closer to the Lord and develop a great affection and love for the Supreme Lord. I really thank all of you all for joining in and for being so much a part of these applied Bhagavatam classes. Every week I'm seeing so many of you all, thousands of you all joining in these classes and hearing the recordings of these classes. It really encourages me to go deeper and to present the Bhagavatam in the most powerful way. There's a lot of effort that goes into these classes. All these notes that you all see, it seems to be easy things, but each one of them takes hours and hours. But I'm doing it simply because I want all of you to bless me in my own journey. Just like Vidura is on a long journey towards perfecting his life, we are all on our own little journeys, and only by the blessings of great devotees and only by the blessings of great Mahatmas we can perfect our journey. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all the next week. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.